"I won't be a burden. I'll clean your barn," native woman begged. But Cowboy's reply froze her. Maria had always been a quiet girl. Growing up in a small native community near the edge of the plains, she had learned early that the world outside her home could be both beautiful and harsh. Her family was not wealthy, but they had enough to get by. Still, Maria often felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. Every morning she woke to help her mother with chores, fetch water from the well, and tend to the small garden they had carefully nurtured. Her father had passed away when she was young, leaving her mother to manage everything alone. Maria had grown up quickly, learning to be strong when life demanded it. Despite all her hard work at home, Maria often felt restless. She dreamed of the open plains she had seen from the edges of her village, where cowboys rode horses and barns stretched wide across the fields. The thought of working in the fresh air, among animals and wide-open skies, gave her a strange mix of excitement and fear. But she knew opportunities were rare for someone like her. Jobs in the town were few, and many of them paid very little. Often she would wander along the edge of the fields after finishing her chores, watching the distant barns and imagining what it would be like to be part of that world. One early morning, as the sky began to lighten with soft streaks of pink and gold, Maria made a decision. Today, she would try to find work outside her home. Her stomach twisted with nervousness, but she had rehearsed her words in her mind over and over. She knew that asking for help could be humbling, but she also knew that she was ready to work, ready to prove herself. She dressed simply, in a worn but clean blouse and jeans, and tied her hair back neatly. Then she stepped out, the cold morning air biting at her cheeks, and began the walk toward the ranch. The ranch she aimed for belonged to Tom, a man who had lived there for many years. He was known throughout the nearby towns and villages as a skilled cowboy who could handle any problem that came his way. He rarely spoke more than necessary, but when he did, people listened. Tom was a man of few words and many actions. Rumors about him circulated among the villagers. Some said he was gruff. Others said he had a kind heart hidden beneath his quiet exterior. Maria had never met him, but she had seen him from a distance riding across the fields with a calm, steady confidence that left her in awe. As she walked, Maria's mind raced with worry. What if he refused her? What if he laughed at her? Or worse, told her to go home? She tried to push the fear aside, telling herself that she had nothing to lose. The thought of being able to work, to learn, and to be part of something bigger than herself made her take each step with more determination. She rehearsed her words silently, whispering to herself, "I won't be a burden. I'll work hard. I just need a chance." When she reached the edge of the ranch, she paused. The barn stood ahead, large and sturdy, with faded red paint that had weathered many seasons. Horses grazed calmly in the paddocks nearby, their tails swishing lazily in the morning breeze. The smell of hay, earth, and animals filled the air, making Maria's heart pound with both excitement and anxiety. She had never been this close to such a place before, and the reality of it made her nervous hands fidget with the straps of her bag. Summoning all her courage, Maria approached the barn slowly. She could see Tom working near the fence, checking the posts and making sure everything was secure. His broad shoulders and steady movements made him look almost larger than life. Maria took a deep breath, steadying herself, and called out softly, "Excuse me, sir?" Tom turned, his eyes narrowing slightly as he studied her. Maria felt her throat tighten, but she pressed on. She stepped a little closer, her voice trembling, but clear enough to be heard. I'm looking for work. I won't be a burden. I'll clean your barn, or do any chores you need. Please, I just want a chance to prove myself." For a long moment, Tom said nothing. He simply looked at her, his expression unreadable. Maria's heart raced. She had expected a quick dismissal or a sharp no. Her hands felt clammy, and she shifted from one foot to the other, afraid she had made a mistake by coming here. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the barnyard, and Maria's stomach twisted with anxiety. She tried again, her voice a little firmer this time. "I promise. I'll work hard. I can wake up early, stay late, do anything you need. I just want to help." Tom remained silent, but he didn't turn away. Slowly, he wiped his hands on his jeans and walked toward her. Maria's heart pounded even faster, unsure of what to expect. As he stopped a few feet away, he tilted his head, studying her carefully. The air seemed to grow heavier with each passing second, and Maria felt as if the world had narrowed down to just the two of them. Then, after what felt like an eternity, Tom spoke, but not in the way Maria had expected. He didn't say yes, and he didn't say no. Instead, he asked quietly, "Why do you want to work here?" I... I... I want to learn. I want to work. I want to prove that I can do something meaningful, not just for myself, but to help others too. I've always admired how you work here, and I want to be part of it, even in a small way. Tom didn't answer immediately. He simply nodded slowly and motioned for her to follow him toward the barn. Maria's heart leapt, but she kept her steps measured, careful not to rush or seem overeager. Inside the barn, the smell of hay and animals grew stronger. She noticed the careful arrangement of tools and supplies, the clean stalls and the neat piles of hay. Everything seemed organized, practical, and welcoming in a quiet way. Tom handed her a broom, and Maria felt a spark of hope. "Start with the stalls," he said simply. "See how you do." Maria nodded eagerly. She bent down and began sweeping, careful not to make mistakes. The work was hard, and her arms soon ached, but she didn't mind. With each sweep, she felt a strange sense of purpose she had never experienced before. The barn, the animals, and even the quiet presence of Tom made her feel like she had found a place where she could belong, if only she worked hard enough to earn it. As the morning passed, Maria lost track of time. She worked diligently, cleaning, organizing, and learning as she went. Tom watched silently from a distance, occasionally offering brief guidance, but mostly letting her find her own rhythm. And Maria realized that this was not just about cleaning a barn. It was about discipline, patience, and respect for the work, for the animals, and for the man who had given her this opportunity. By the time the sun was high in the sky, Maria was sweaty, tired, and covered in dust, but she felt a sense of pride she had never known. She had come asking for a chance, and although she hadn't yet earned his full trust, she had taken the first step. And somehow, just somehow, she felt that this was the beginning of something important, something that could change her life forever. Maria left the barn that day exhausted but smiling. She walked back home across the fields, the wind tugging at her hair, thinking about what tomorrow might bring. She didn't know what Tom would say next, or whether she would truly belong here. But for the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful. She had stepped out of her comfort zone, faced her fear, and dared to ask for something she wanted. And that, she realized, was already a victory in itself. The next morning, Maria woke before sunrise. Her body ached slightly from the work she had done the day before, but the ache was different. It was a good ache, the kind that made her feel alive and useful. She quickly dressed in her simple clothes, tied her hair back, and ate a quick breakfast with her mother. Her mother watched her with a mixture of concern and pride. "You really want to do this, don't you?" her mother asked quietly, her hands busy kneading dough for bread. Maria nodded, her face serious. "Yes, Mama. I feel like I can do something there. I can learn, and I don't want to stay in the village feeling useless. I want to help, even if it's small." Her mother sighed softly but didn't argue. She knew Maria's spirit could not be contained. "Just remember to be careful. Not everyone will see your heart, Maria. But if this feels right, then follow it." With those words echoing in her mind, Maria stepped outside into the cool morning air. The path to the ranch was quiet, bathed in soft golden light. Birds sang in the trees, and the smell of dew-covered grass filled the air. Maria felt her nervousness return, but it was mixed with determination. She would show Tom that she could work hard and that she was serious. As she approached the barn, she saw Tom already outside, checking the fences. He had a quiet presence, moving slowly but purposefully, every action measured. Maria stopped for a moment to watch him, wondering how someone could seem so calm while doing so much. His face was lined with age and experience, his hands rough from years of work, but his eyes were steady and observant. She felt a flutter of nervousness. "Good morning," she said softly, approaching him. Tom looked up and nodded once, not speaking at first. Maria swallowed hard. The silence stretched for a moment, and she felt her confidence falter. She reminded herself to stay steady, to show that she was serious about working. Tom finally spoke. "Morning. Ready to start?" "Yes," Maria replied, her voice firmer than yesterday. "I'm ready to work." Tom nodded again. "Follow me. I'll show you what needs to be done first." They walked toward the barn, the wooden boards creaking under their feet. Maria noticed the way Tom moved, careful with each step, as if he didn't want to disturb anything. He gestured toward the stalls. "The horses need clean bedding. Start there. Make sure it's tidy. Don't rush. Do it properly." Maria nodded and bent down to begin. She worked slowly, learning the rhythm of cleaning the stalls. Each movement had to be precise. Too rough, and she could hurt herself or the animals. Too careless, and the barn wouldn't stay clean for long. As she worked, Tom watched silently, occasionally glancing over with a small nod of approval when he noticed her paying attention to detail. Maria's arms ached. Her hands were rough from handling hay, but she felt a quiet satisfaction with every task completed. She began to notice little things, the way the horses responded to gentle strokes, how a small adjustment in the hay bedding could make the animals more comfortable, and how the barn seemed more organized when she took the time to do things carefully. Tom finally spoke after a while. "Not bad," he said quietly, not as praise but as a statement of fact. "You work differently than most. You pay attention. That's important." Maria's heart lifted. Even though the words were simple, the approval in his tone was enough to make her feel seen. She nodded and continued her work, more determined than ever. By midday, the sun was high in the sky, warm against her back. Maria paused for a moment, wiping sweat from her brow. She looked around at the barn, the horses, and the neat rows of tools. She felt a strange mix of pride and humility. The work was hard, but it was meaningful. She realized that this was not just about cleaning or doing chores. It was about learning responsibility, about being part of something bigger than herself. Tom came over and handed her a bucket. "These need to be carried to the far end of the barn. Careful with them." Maria lifted the bucket and felt its weight. It was heavier than she expected, and she struggled slightly at first, but she steadied herself, took a deep breath, and carried it carefully across the barn. Tom watched her every step, silent but observant. When she finally set the bucket down, he nodded once. Good, you're learning. Maria smiled, though she kept her voice quiet. Thank you. As the day went on, she continued with various tasks, feeding the animals, organizing supplies, mending small fences, and stacking hay. Each task came with a lesson. Maria began to understand that working on a ranch was not just about strength. It was about patience, attention to detail, and respect for both the animals and the land. Throughout the day, Maria noticed that Tom never praised her excessively, nor did he criticize harshly. He simply guided her, offering advice when necessary, and allowed her to figure things out on her own. It was a strange way to learn, but Maria began to appreciate it. She realized that he was testing her determination, seeing if she would keep going even when the work was hard, and the rewards were not immediate. By late afternoon, the barn was nearly spotless. Maria's body was tired, her muscles sore, but her spirit felt light. She had accomplished so much in one day, and she could feel the difference in the barn and the animals. The horses seemed calmer, the stalls cleaner, and even the tools felt more organized. She looked at Tom, who was leaning against a fence, watching her quietly. You did well today, he said finally. His voice was calm but carried weight. Not everyone can keep up with this kind of work. You have to want it. You have to care. Maria nodded, feeling a sense of pride swell in her chest. I do care. I want to learn. I want to help. Tom studied her for a long moment, his eyes steady and thoughtful. Then he nodded again. Tomorrow, you'll start a little earlier. We'll do more. But for now, take a break. You've earned it. Maria felt a wave of relief and happiness. For the first time in a long while, she felt that she was in a place where she could belong, where her hard work mattered. She realized that this opportunity was more than just a job. It was a chance to prove herself, to learn, and to grow. As she walked home that evening, the sun dipping low in the sky, Maria thought about everything she had learned. The barn, the animals, and even the quiet presence of Tom had taught her something important. Hard work was not just about effort. It was about patience, dedication, and respect. And even more than that, it was about believing in oneself, even when the world seemed uncertain. When Maria reached her home, her mother was waiting, a warm smile on her face. How was it? She asked, curious. Maria smiled back, exhausted but happy. It was amazing. Hard, yes, but amazing. I learned so much today, and I think I can do this. I really can. Her mother nodded, pride shining in her eyes. I knew you could, Maria. I knew you had it in you. That night, as Maria lay in bed, she thought about the barn, the horses, and Tom's quiet guidance. She felt a sense of hope and purpose that she had never experienced before. She knew that the days ahead would be challenging, that she would grow tired, and that mistakes would happen. But she also knew that she had taken the first step towards something meaningful, something that could change her life in ways she had never imagined. And with that thought, Maria drifted off to sleep, dreaming of wide-open plains, clean barns, and the sense of belonging she had longed for her entire life. The next morning, Maria woke before the sun had even started to rise. She rubbed the sleep from her eyes, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today felt different. It wasn't just another day of chores. Something in her chest told her that today would be important. She dressed quickly in her simple clothes, tying her hair back so it wouldn't get in her way while working, and quietly stepped outside. The air was crisp and cool, the morning sky painted in pale pinks and soft blues. She could hear birds beginning to sing, welcoming the new day. As she walked along the familiar path to the ranch, her mind raced. She thought about the previous days, the hard work, the sweat, the aching muscles, and the quiet approval of Tom. She remembered his words. Not everyone can keep up with this kind of work. You have to want it. You have to care. Those words had stayed with her. She realized that it wasn't just about being strong or fast. It was about commitment, patience, and showing that she truly cared about the work she was doing. When Marie arrived at the ranch, she noticed something different. Tom was standing by the fence, his eyes scanning the horizon as though he was thinking deeply about something. He didn't notice her at first. Maria's heart thumped in her chest. She felt a little nervous. What if he had decided she wasn't ready? What if she had failed to meet his expectations? She shook the thoughts away and stepped closer, trying to appear calm and confident. "Good morning, Maria," Tom said finally, turning toward her. His voice was calm, steady, and carried that quiet authority that always made her pay attention. "Ready to start?" "Yes, sir," Maria replied, her voice firm. "I'm ready." Tom nodded, then gestured toward the barn. "Today, I want you to try something different. There's more to running this ranch than cleaning stalls and feeding horses. You need to understand the animals, the land, and the rhythm of the work. Watch closely and learn. Then you'll try it yourself." Maria's curiosity sparked. She followed him silently as he led her around the barn and the nearby fields. The horses were grazing in the paddocks, their tails flicking and ears twitching at every sound. Some of them were gentle and calm, while others were more skittish. Tom stopped near one of the quieter horses and began speaking softly to it, moving slowly so as not to startle the animal. Maria watched carefully, noticing the way his hands moved, the way his voice carried calmness, and the way he used patience instead of force. "This is Daisy," Tom said quietly, nodding toward the horse. "She's a bit nervous around strangers. You have to earn her trust. Don't rush. Let her see you as a friend, not a threat." Maria nodded, her hands clenching slightly. She had never worked so closely with a horse before. Her heart beat faster, but she felt determined. Slowly, she stepped closer, trying to mimic the calm movements Tom had shown her. Daisy lifted her head, nostrils flaring, eyes wide. Maria stopped, remembering Tom's advice. She held out her hand and spoke softly. "It's okay, Daisy." "I won't hurt you." The horse's ears twitched, but it didn't move away. Maria took a slow step forward, then another. She was careful not to make sudden movements. After a few tense moments, Daisy lowered her head slightly and allowed Maria to touch her nose. Maria felt a thrill of accomplishment run through her. It was the first real connection she had made with an animal on the ranch, and it felt like a small victory, but a very important one. Tom watched silently, then finally spoke. "Good. You're learning how to respect them. That's the first step to understanding ranch work." The rest of the morning passed with Maria learning how to care for the horses more deeply, brushing their coats, checking their hooves, and observing their behavior. Each action required patience and attention, and Maria realized that even the smallest mistake could affect the animals. She began to see that ranch work wasn't just about physical strength, it was about thinking, observing, and responding with care. By late morning, Maria's arms were tired. Her back ached from bending and reaching, but she felt more alive than ever. She was learning skills she had never imagined she could master. Tom moved on to other chores, giving her space to practice. but he continued to watch from a distance. Maria could feel his eyes on her, not in judgment, but in careful observation. She knew he was measuring her determination, seeing if she could continue even when it was hard. After lunch, Tom handed her a new task. The barn isn't just about the horses. There are other animals, tools, and supplies to manage. Today, you'll help organize the feed room. Make sure everything is clean, labeled, and easy to find. Pay attention to detail. Maria nodded eagerly. The feed room was a small but important part of the barn. She opened sacks of grain, stacked them neatly, and labeled each one carefully. She swept the floor, checked for spills, and arranged everything so it would be easy to access. It was meticulous work, and at first it felt tedious. But as she worked, she began to enjoy it. She could see the difference her care was making. The room felt organized, tidy, and ready for use. Each small action felt meaningful, like a piece of a bigger puzzle she was helping to complete. By late afternoon, Maria was exhausted. Her clothes were dusty, her hands sore, and her feet tired from standing and moving all day. But as she looked around at the barn, the horses, and the neatly arranged feed room, she felt an immense sense of pride. She was learning, growing, and proving to herself that she could handle hard work, even when it was challenging and unfamiliar. Tom approached her quietly. "You've done well today," he said, his voice calm but carrying weight. "You're learning more than just chores. You're learning responsibility, patience, and how to care for living things. That's what matters here." Maria felt a wave of relief and happiness. His words were simple, but they meant everything to her. She had worked hard, and now she was being recognized for her effort. She nodded, smiling despite her exhaustion. "Thank you, sir. I'll keep learning." Tom studied her for a long moment, then finally nodded and turned away. Maria watched him walk back toward the fields, feeling a strange mixture of admiration and curiosity. She realized that there was more to this man than she had ever imagined. He was quiet, serious, and skilled, but he also had a way of teaching that made her want to improve, not because of fear, but because she wanted to prove herself. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Maria finished her last task of the day. She took a deep breath and looked around the barnyard. Everything was in order, the animals calm, the barn clean, and the feed room organized. She felt a sense of peace, knowing that her work had made a difference. Walking home, Maria's mind was filled with thoughts about what she had learned. She realized that ranch work was more than physical labor. It was about observation, patience, respect, and care. It was about connecting with animals, the land, and even the people who taught you. She thought about Tom and the quiet way he guided her. She realized that he had a way of teaching that went beyond words. He taught by example, by patience, and by letting her discover her own abilities. When Maria reached her home, her mother noticed her tired but satisfied expression. "How was it today?" she asked gently. Maria smiled, her face flushed from the work. "It was amazing. Hard, yes, but amazing. I learned so much, and I think I'm starting to understand what it really means to work on a ranch." Her mother nodded, pride shining in her eyes. "I can see that. You're growing, Maria. Keep this spirit, and you'll go far." That night, Maria lay in bed, her body sore but her mind buzzing with excitement. She thought about Daisy, the horse she had connected with, about the feed room she had organized, and about the lessons she had learned. She realized that each day would bring new challenges and that mistakes were inevitable, but she also knew that she was ready to face them. that she had the determination and heart to continue learning and growing. And as she drifted off to sleep, Maria felt a quiet sense of hope and purpose. She was no longer just a girl from a small village. She was someone learning, growing, and finding her place in a world she had only dreamed of before. The days ahead would be long and challenging, but she knew that with determination, patience, and care, she could face whatever came her way. The next morning, Maria woke to the sound of birds chirping and the soft rustle of wind through the trees. She felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. Today, she sensed, would not be easy. She dressed quickly, tied her hair back tightly, and ate a light breakfast, thinking about the barn, the animals, and the tasks awaiting her. Her muscles ached from the previous days of work, but the soreness reminded her that she was growing stronger and more capable. She felt ready to face whatever challenges the day might bring. As she approached the ranch, Maria noticed that the air felt different. There was a quiet tension in the morning, almost as if the ranch itself knew that something significant was about to happen. Tom was already outside, walking among the fields and inspecting fences. His eyes were sharp, scanning the horizon with a seriousness that made Maria pause for a moment. She had seen him focused before, but today there was something more, something that made her heart beat faster. "Good morning, Maria," Tom said without looking directly at her. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it that made her pay attention immediately. "Today, we're going to do something different. You've learned how to care for the barn and the animals. You've shown patience and attention to detail. But ranch work isn't always predictable. Sometimes challenges appear without warning, and you have to think quickly and act wisely." Maria nodded, her hands tightening at her sides. "I understand, sir. I'm ready." Tom finally turned to her, his gaze steady and serious. "Good. Follow me. We have a situation to handle." Curiosity and a little apprehension ran through Maria's chest as she followed Tom across the fields. They approached the paddock where Daisy and the other horses grazed. Maria immediately noticed that one of the smaller horses, a young colt, was nervously pacing along the fence. Its ears were pinned back, nostrils flaring and tail swishing with agitation. Maria froze for a moment, unsure what to do. She had seen nervous horses before, but this one seemed more panicked than usual. Tom gestured toward the colt. "See that? That's a challenge. He's not used to people around him, and he's frightened. Today you'll help me calm him down and guide him safely back to the stable. It won't be easy, and he may resist. But this is a test, not just of skill, but of patience and courage." Maria felt her stomach twist with nerves. She had never worked with a horse in such a state of fear before, but she remembered the lessons she had learned: patience, careful observation, gentle movements, and respect. Taking a deep breath, she stepped closer to the colt, moving slowly and keeping her voice soft. "It's okay," she whispered. "We won't hurt you. We just want to help." The colt's ears twitched, and it stopped pacing for a moment, eyeing her warily. Maria held out her hand, recalling how she had approached Daisy, and took a careful step forward. The colt moved back slightly, but did not bolt. Tom observed silently, letting Maria try her approach first. Hours passed as Maria worked patiently, sometimes stepping forward, sometimes retreating, adjusting her approach based on the colt's reactions. She realized that this was far more than physical work. It was mental and emotional. She had to anticipate the horse's fears, understand its movements, and communicate calmness through her own body. At one point, the colt reared slightly, and Maria froze, heart pounding. She remembered Tom's words: "Think, don't react. Patience, always patience." Slowly, she backed away, giving the horse space to calm down. By midday, Maria had made small but significant progress. The colt began to allow her to get closer, even letting her touch its nose gently. She felt a surge of pride. It was exhausting work, but she was learning something invaluable about trust, empathy, and connection, not just with the animals, but with life itself. Tom nodded quietly, watching her carefully, and finally said, "You're doing well. Keep your focus. Don't rush." The afternoon brought a new challenge. One of the fences in the field had been damaged by a storm the night before. Tom instructed Maria to help repair it. At first, she felt a pang of frustration. She was already tired from working with the colt, but she quickly realized that this was another test of her determination. She picked up tools, hammered posts into place, and reinforced the boards. It was hard work, requiring both strength and precision. Her hands became sore and blistered, her muscles aching, but she refused to give up. She reminded herself that every small action mattered, that the safety of the animals depended on her care and effort. As she worked, she began to notice something else. The land itself demanded attention and respect. Uneven ground, hidden rocks, and unexpected dips meant she had to be careful with every step. The work wasn't just about physical effort. It was about awareness, thoughtfulness, and adaptability. Maria realized that ranch life was a constant lesson in observation, patience, and quick thinking. Late in the afternoon, as the sun began to dip toward the horizon, a sudden shout broke the quiet. One of the other horses had broken free from its paddock and was galloping toward a steep part of the field. Maria's heart jumped. She knew she had to act quickly. She sprinted toward the horse, her mind racing. Using the lessons Tom had taught her about calmness and movement, she approached slowly, speaking softly to the animal. Step by step, she guided it back toward the paddock. Her hands shook, her legs burned from running, but she stayed focused. With a final gentle nudge, the horse returned safely to its pen. Tom watched quietly, then finally said, "That was good. Very good. You kept your focus, stayed calm, and acted wisely. Most people would panic, but you didn't. That's what I mean when I say this work isn't just physical. It's about thinking, feeling, and acting with care." Maria felt a mix of relief, pride, and exhaustion. Her body was tired, but her spirit was soaring. She realized that today had tested more than her strength. It had tested her courage, her patience, and her ability to remain calm under pressure. She had faced challenges she had never imagined, and she had succeeded. As the evening settled over the ranch, Maria and Tom walked slowly back toward the barn. The sky was painted with streaks of orange, pink, and purple. The animals were calm, the fences repaired, and the colt finally resting quietly in its stall. Maria felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and exhaustion, and she had grown stronger, wiser, and more confident in herself. Tom turned to her, his expression unreadable at first. Then he spoke softly, almost as if sharing a secret. "You've changed since the first day. You're not just helping, you're learning. You're becoming part of this place. And that is important." Maria's eyes widened slightly. "Ah!" She hadn't expected such words. Her heart swelled with emotion. For the first time, she felt that her efforts were seen not just by Tom, but by the ranch itself. She realized that belonging was more than being present. It was about commitment, care, and courage. That night, as Maria walked home under the soft glow of the moon, she thought about everything she had experienced that day. The colt, the broken fence, the runaway horse, All of it had tested her in ways she had never imagined. But she had endured, learned, and grown. She understood now that challenges were not obstacles to avoid. They were opportunities to prove strength, patience, and courage. Her mother noticed the tired but determined expression on Maria's face when she arrived. "You've had a long day," she said gently. Maria nodded. "Yes, Mama." But it was incredible. Hard, yes, but I feel like I'm learning something real. Something I didn't know I could do. Her mother smiled, placing a hand on Maria's shoulder. "I can see it in you. You're growing, Maria. Keep this spirit, and you'll find your place in the world." That night, Maria lay in bed, her body sore but her mind alive with thoughts. She reflected on the lessons of the day: patience, courage, careful observation, and determination. She realized that the challenges she had faced were not just tests, they were part of her transformation. She felt stronger, more capable, and more connected to the land, the animals, and even to Tom in a way she couldn't fully explain. As she drifted off to sleep, she felt a quiet but powerful sense of hope. The days ahead would be full of more challenges, more lessons, and more opportunities to grow. But she was ready. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and exhaustion, and she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident than before. And with that thought, Maria finally slept, dreaming of open fields, calm horses, repaired fences, and the quiet strength she had discovered within herself. She knew that she was no longer just a girl from a small village. She was becoming someone capable of facing life's challenges with courage, patience, and heart. The next morning, Maria woke with a mixture of anticipation and quiet excitement. The previous days had been challenging, each one teaching her new lessons about patience, hard work, and resilience. She stretched her sore muscles and felt a strange sense of pride. The soreness no longer bothered her. It was a reminder of how far she had come. Today, she sensed, might be different. There was a feeling in the air, almost like the ranch itself was waiting for something to happen. She dressed quickly, tying her hair back tightly and pulling on her boots. Her mother watched her with a soft, knowing smile. "You've changed these past few days," her mother said gently. "You're stronger, Maria. I can see it in the way you carry yourself." "I feel it too, Mama. I feel like I can really do this. Like I belong there, in some small way." Her mother nodded. "Then go. Show them and yourself what you're capable of." As Maria walked the familiar path to the ranch, the sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. The air smelled of dew and earth, and the faint sound of horses moving in the paddocks reached her ears. With each step, Maria's heart raced. She had worked hard to reach this point, but she knew that today would test more than her strength. It would test her determination, her spirit, and the lessons she had learned over the past week. When she arrived at the ranch, she saw Tom standing by the barn, his arms crossed and eyes focused on the fields. He didn't immediately notice her approach. Maria took a deep breath and called out softly, "Good morning, sir." Tom looked up and nodded once, a faint smile crossing his weathered face. "Morning, Maria. Ready for today?" "Yes, sir," she replied, her voice steady. She felt a strange mix of nervousness and excitement, but she refused to let it show. Tom gestured toward the barn and the surrounding fields. "Today, I want you to take more responsibility. You've learned about the horses, the feed, the fences. Now, I want you to show me that you can manage more than just tasks. You need to see the big picture. Pay attention, make decisions, and handle what comes your way. I'll be here but you'll lead where I've guided." Maria's chest tightened with both nerves and determination. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to prove that she had grown, that she could take responsibility, and that she had earned her place on the ranch. She nodded firmly and followed Tom into the barn. The morning was busy. Maria began with the usual chores, feeding the horses, cleaning stalls, and checking supplies. But now she did everything with more awareness. She noticed the small details Tom had taught her to watch for: the way a horse shifted its weight, the subtle signs that a fence needed repair, the way certain tools were used more efficiently. She made decisions on her own, adjusting the tasks as needed, always mindful of safety and the comfort of the animals. Around mid-morning, Tom called her outside. "The north paddock has an issue. One of the boards is loose and the horses are restless. Go check it and handle it as you see fit." Maria's heart raced. This was her test. She walked quickly to the north paddock, observing the horses as she approached. One of them, a spirited mare, was pawing at the ground and tossing its head nervously. Maria remembered the lessons about calmness and patience. She spoke softly, slowly, approaching the mare. "It's okay," she whispered. "We'll fix it together." Step by step, she guided the mare away from the loose board, careful to keep both herself and the horse safe. Then she assessed the fence and began working methodically, securing the loose board with a hammer and nails. Her hands ached, but she focused on each motion, ensuring that the fence was strong and the horses were safe. By midday, Maria had repaired the fence, calmed the mare, and checked the other animals in the paddock. Tom had watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. When she finally finished, he walked over, nodding slowly. "You handled that well. You thought ahead, stayed calm, and took responsibility. That's what matters here." Maria felt a rush of pride. This was more than just completing a task. It was a moment of recognition. She realized that she had not only learned skills, but she had also earned trust. Tom's approval was quiet, but it carried weight, and Maria felt it deeply. The afternoon brought new challenges. A sudden gust of wind knocked over a stack of hay bales in the storage area. Maria acted quickly, steadying the stack before it could fall completely and checking that the barn doors were secure. Her movements were careful and precise, and she realized how much she had grown in just a few days. She no longer felt unsure or timid. She felt capable, confident, and aware of her surroundings. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Maria felt a sense of calm accomplishment. She had faced challenges, made decisions, and worked hard without complaint. She realized that the lessons she had learned over the past days, patience, responsibility, empathy, and focus, were no longer just lessons. They were a part of her. She had transformed through her work, her perseverance, and her determination to prove herself. Tom approached her as she finished her last task of the day. "Maria," he said quietly, his voice calm but serious, "you've come a long way since the first day. You've learned more than just how to clean a barn or feed horses. You've learned how to observe, to care, to lead, and to think for yourself. That's not something everyone can do. You've earned your place here." Maria's heart swelled. She had worked hard for this recognition, but hearing it in his quiet, steady voice made it feel real. She realized that she had not only gained skills and knowledge, but she had also discovered something important about herself: her own strength, courage, and ability to grow. "Thank you, sir," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion, "for teaching me and for giving me the chance." Tom nodded, his eyes meeting hers. "You didn't just take the chance. You made it yours. That's what matters. As the evening settled over the ranch, Maria walked home under a sky filled with the soft glow of the setting sun. The fields were bathed in warm light and the horses moved quietly in their pens. Maria felt a deep sense of connection, not just to the ranch and the animals, but to the lessons she had learned and the confidence she had gained. She realized that she was no longer the timid girl who had begged to clean the barn. She was someone capable, resilient, and ready to face challenges with courage and care. When she arrived home, her mother greeted her with a warm, proud smile. I can see it in you, Maria. You've grown so much. Your hard work and determination are shining through. Maria smiled, her heart full. I feel it too, Mama. I feel like I've found something important, a place where I belong, a place where my effort matters. That night, as she lay in bed, Maria reflected on everything that had happened. She thought about the challenges she had faced, the frightened colt, the broken fences, the runaway horse, and the many small tasks that seemed insignificant at first, but had taught her patience and responsibility. She realized that each challenge had been a step toward growth, and each lesson had strengthened her spirit. She also thought about Tom, who had guided her with quiet patience and allowed her to discover her own abilities. She understood now that his trust had not been given lightly. It had to be earned, and through hard work, careful observation, and determination, she had earned it. Maria felt a deep sense of hope and purpose. She knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but she now had the skills, confidence, and courage to face them. She was no longer just a girl from a small village. She was someone capable of handling responsibility, learning from mistakes, and growing stronger with each experience. As she drifted off to sleep, she dreamed of the barn, the horses, and the wide open fields. She imagined herself continuing to learn, to grow, and to make a difference in the small but meaningful world she had become a part of. She felt a sense of belonging and pride that she had never known before, and she knew that this was just the beginning of her journey. In the quiet of the night, Maria realized something important. Hard work, patience, and courage could transform a person. It could turn fear into confidence, uncertainty into reality. And for Maria, it had done exactly that. She smiled softly, her heart full of gratitude and determination.